from the St. Louis Blues is going to disappoint you during training camp? Let's talk about it here on Locked On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And a good Tuesday, St. Louis. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about the Blues, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I have a very busy episode today because I want to talk to you about who do you think will disappoint during training camp. Now that training camp is kind of getting closer among us. Also, more about Doug Armstrong's plan for the St. Louis Blues. And of course, expecting the concerns. What does that exactly mean? Well, it has to do with a lot that went down during the whole offer sheet debacle with Broberg and Holloway. So we have a lot to dive into, as I said. But now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. I hope everybody is having a good Tuesday. It is August 27th. We are so close to September, which means that we get training camp, we get preseason hockey. Life will be good again. And for me personally, I cannot wait for that. But we still have some stuff to talk about before we get into the fun stuff, right? Which is going to be the live action. We need to talk about, well, who do we think is going to disappoint us? And, I asked this on Twitter over the weekend, and on my own personal account, I replied and said, oh, wow, way to be negative. But I feel like we've been so positive lately as a fan base, which is good. I'm happy about that. Do not get me wrong. I love positivity. But at the same time, now that there are two new players coming into this organization with Broberg and Holloway that are going to most likely get roster spots, that means that the competition during training camp, it's going to be fierce. And there's no other way to put it. And obviously, when I say to you, name the weakest player in the St. Louis Blues, I'm sure that you have a name that pops into your head. And if you have a name that pops into your head, let me ask you this. Do you like them and expect them to make the roster, or do you think that they're going to be not making the opening night roster? And if you say they're probably not going to make the opening night roster, you're probably correct, because that's how the competition is this season. Doug Armstrong, and I'm going to get into this in the plan for the St. Louis Blues, but he talked about how training camp is going to be. And he said that the veterans really need to step up because of how the competition will be. It's not going to be an easy, we show up, we get the credit, I'm on the roster, that's not how it's going to be. And I think that, and I hate using the word complacency because I don't feel like there is many players on the Blues that feel that way, that feel complacent. But I do feel at the same time that you need to elevate your game, okay? And I feel like that is something that makes me happy in a sense that the Blues moved on from Kevin Hayes, because I feel like he was one of those players. And again, I'm not trying to talk that bad on him, but he was one of those players. And I'm talking as a person, but as a player that kind of just showed up, but didn't really exceed expectations. That didn't really go out of his way to, do what he needed to do, essentially, is what I'm saying. So I think that this is a very valid question. This is a very valid concern. The St. Louis Blues, let's be honest, they really need to make the playoffs this year. It sucked with them not making it last season. That's 2 consecutive seasons in a row. And I am concerned a little bit, not because of the talent. I think the Blues actually do have talent now, but I am concerned about how it's all going to mesh together. And I know that sounds a little bit funny, but when you have a personality like Ryan Suter coming in, I'm like, how is he going to interact with my boy, and this is just a random person on the team, but Robert Thomas, like, how are they going to get along in their locker room? And I just think about different personalities. Like, is Bush going to really put up with Broberg thinking he might be all that? I'm not saying that he is. I'm just saying from things that I heard about him in Edmonton, he was upset about some stuff with the contract, and they claim now, again, this is Edmonton people, they claim that he didn't play his best hockey. So I just think about how some of our players are going to interact with some of the newer guys, and it just makes me very thankful for our goalie Tatum with Binner and Hofer because I know that they're going to get along. But other than that, I just have so many questions about what we're going to see from this team. Is this team really going to look elevated on the ice, or is this team going to look the same old? And I challenge you, I told you to have that player in your head. And I challenge you to tell me in the comments below what you think that player's role in the lineup would be if they were to make the team. For instance, again, I'm not bashing, I'm talking hockey. Scott Perunovich. I like Perunovich. I know I was a little surprised about him getting that 1 year, but that's my opinion. It is what it is. I don't think he's a bad player. I don't think he's a great player. He is what it is. I don't really see him making it. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but I just don't. But I feel like if he were to make the roster, he would be on obviously the third pair. But again, I want to challenge you because right now, this is the fun of hockey is coming up with the different scenarios, coming up with the different lines, and coming up with different kind of game plans. And you get to be somewhat of a GM at home. That's what August is in Hockeyland. It's becoming your own GM while, you're waiting for the season to begin. So as I said, the question that I really had was, who do you think will disappoint during training camp? And I'm going to name 3 players, and then I'm going to read some of your responses. I have yet to look at your responses, as I like to be as authentic as I can be on these episodes and get my honest reaction of what you have to say. And again, that is asked on Twitter X, whatever we're going to call it, at Locked On Blues. But 3 players that I think might struggle during camp. I think it's going to be P.O. Joseph. I do. Scott Perunovich. And then my third one is Tyler Tucker. Now you see my concerns. And let me say this. I know I have praised Tyler Tucker a lot, and I genuinely do like Tyler Tucker. I think he is a good player, but I think he is in a struggle. We saw last year that he wasn't the best. Obviously, I named all defensemen if you weren't picking up on why I was like, because that's where my concern is. My concern has been defense. But yet again, we have a guy like Broberg coming in that is going to help me with my concerns on defense. I think at the end of the day, defense is going to be one of those things where I just have to accept I'm not going to always feel comfortable. But those are the 3 guys that I think will struggle during camp. Now, if Broberg didn't come in, I don't know if I would have P.O. on my list. I don't. I think that maybe, just maybe, I would go with a forward, a center, a guy that I like, Nathan Walker. I love the Aussie Nathan Walker. I do. I just don't know if he's going to be able to keep up with this Blues offense. I don't. It's really big competition this season. I know he signed the 2-year extension last year, but I don't know if he's going to keep up with it. I guess I could have mentioned, I don't know why I went all defense. I literally went all defense. I just don't think Perunovich's game is as strong, Tucker's game is as strong, and Joseph's game is as strong. You could also go with the, I, I think Suter is going to fit in fine playing wise. Fosca, I think he'll be fine. Texier will be fine. I just don't know if I see those handful of guys. But again, that is why I then ask you your thoughts, because I know my thoughts. This is an opinion question, so I want to hear what you have to say. So I am going to log on to Twitter X now, and let's go see the first comment. Wow, I got ratioed. Was my own account. Way to be negative. I told you I would do that. Ryan Shipley says, I don't have high expectations for Ryan Suter. So the reason why I think Suter will be fine overall is that he's a veteran in this league. And I feel like with a team that is as young as the St. Louis Blues are, they kind of do need that veteran leadership. Now, again, he could be one of those players that gets traded. I'm not saying that he is going to stay on the team the whole season. But again, the defense is the defense, right? And he could be maybe that third pair defenseman. I know, 39 years old. Trust me, I am not a huge fan of when we brought him in, but it makes sense because we do need some of that veteran presence. And his contract isn't crazy. I'm not that upset. So, again, he wouldn't be on my bottom 3 list. Then we have King Eskimo. Unfortunately, Ball Duke. As a shooter, he feels like a piece that wouldn't have been great to have. It's so far away. He would have been a player that would have been great to have penciled in the second line role by now. And every time Army has a press conference, his name comes up as the guy possibly pushing for a spot. He is only 21. So, what I will say, because there is some comments to that one, is that here's the thing. Doug Armstrong did say in his press conference about the offer sheets that he could see Zachary Balduke pushing to be a top 6. Now, do I think he can be a top 6? No, I'm thinking more like a top 9 is more realistic. But the thing about Zach Balduke is, yes, he is still young. He is 21. And I see him growing in his game. Now, again, if maybe he was 23, 24, I would have a whole different opinion. I just think that he does have time to grow in. And we did see some really good key moments from him last season. His shooting, yes, it does need to be worked on, but he does have great speed and good puck control on the ice. And I think just over time, and the more experience that he gets playing up here in the NHL and not down below in Springfield, nothing wrong with the T-Birds, go T-Birds, he will gain that comfortability and perform well. So I am hoping for a good camp. As I said, I don't really see him being obviously in the top 6. So Doug replied and said, after the chemistry they showed at the end of last season, I have Bolduc penciled in next to Thomas, a pure sniper next to the team's best playmaker, possibly neighbor Shen or Boosh on the other wing, depending on how that 2C shakes out. Doug, I like your positivity. I just don't know if I would have Bolduc on the first line. No, I would not do that. Omaha says, I'm really expecting Bolduc to break out this year. Seriously, want to see some of those younger guys get good looks. Bolduc, Dean, Dvorsky, Holloway, and even Snuggie after his NCAA title. Biggest letdown would be him holding out and never signing with the Blues. Let's not be too negative today. I'm going to talk a little bit about Doug Armstrong's plan, and we do have some more to get into. I did not realize how long this first bit was going to be because you just have so many good replies. But I want to tell you about my friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash, with all the parts you need at the prices you want. It's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only. Available to U.S. customers. Okay, we're going to do something that I usually don't do. We're going to get back to your comments, and then I'm going to touch on the plan with Armstrong, but it kind of all fits in with what you're saying with some of these players. So, again, we have Blues fan in Vegas. Viva Los Blues. Oh, I can't sing, but I like that name. Again, player that will disappoint, Perunovic or Tucker. One of those two are gone with the extra defenseman. So, yes, again, I talked on that on my personal opinion on what I think of who will struggle. I just don't see Perunovic or Tucker beating out some of these other guys. Doug says, this is actually a difficult question. It would have to be someone I actually have expectations for. It's between Shen and Folk for me, and I'll go with Folk due to the importance of his position. Doug, I like that answer. You know how I feel about Justin Folk. You do. I like him. Do I think last season I was a little bit disappointed? Yes, but again, a huge piece of this team, so I'm hoping for the best. The Josh says Perunovic. Jason, oh no, he said even if Krug is healthy enough to play this season, he's going to be a third pair guy though. even though I think he should be scratched. Jason, Torrey Krug probably will be getting surgery. Like, he's down bad right now. He does not need this slander. I understand you were answering a question, but oh man, poor Torrey Krug. Even when Torrey Krug is indefinitely out, it's still bashing on Torrey Krug. But I get it. It's okay. And then DB says Kapanen. So a lot of good responses from all of you. And I do appreciate you chiming in again on Twitter X at Locked on Blues. So I talked a little bit about Doug Armstrong's plan, okay? And here's the thing. You know I love Dougie A. You know how much I respect him, how much I truly think that he is one of the best GMs on the St. Louis Blues. And here's the thing. Doug Armstrong knows what he is doing, okay? Again, Holloway, Broberg, everybody involved last week mentioned about this plan that Doug had and how they really liked what Doug had to say. Doug wants to build a team of young core guys and build them up together. So let me break that down for you. Doug's plan is this. Basically, to sum it all up, and this is what Doug said last week. The past decade of him being here, a little bit over a decade, the main focus was bringing back Lord Stanley to St. Louis for the first time. And guess what? Goal accomplished. But you know what they say, when you get one, you're going to win another one. And I know we won another one here in St. Louis, and I know that they do as well. Well, the problem is you had a team when we won the cup that was a win now team with a lot of 1-year contracts and a lot of players that ended up leaving us, right? No harm. It just is what it is. If you want to have a consistently good team, a team that's like a dynasty, and oh man, don't do this. Back in the day, the Chicago Blackhawks, this is killing me. I don't know if I can use them as an example. I'll use a more recent example. I don't want to use them. Hypothetically, back in the day, there were some teams that we hate that were really strong teams, and every season they would make it to the playoffs and do really well, win multiple cups. Cool. Yay, hockey. Fun. And I want the Blues to be that kind of team. And I know that Doug Armstrong does as well. That was painful. But going back to my main point, if we have any serious chance of becoming a strong team again, in a sense of a team that's going to make the playoffs past the first round, because if you look at our history, we don't do that often. But again, if you want to be a team that's contending for the Stanley Cup, let's just say it how it is, you're going to need a group of young players that are going to grow with the St. Louis Blues organization. I mean, Edmonton, you see their problem, and I'm using them as an example because they are a team that's been highly linked with us lately. A lot of older players. We got like literally their youngest players at 22 and 23, which isn't, I guess, young, but it's not like young. You see other teams in the league like that with the Pittsburgh Penguins that have a lot of older players. They added Kevin Hayes, older player. But then you look at some other teams in the NHL that have added a lot of young players, like, I hate them, the San Jose Sharks. Let's say, forget it, it's a lot of young players. You even have the Blackhawks with some young players. Yay, no, I still hate them. The Flyers have a lot of young players, but the Devils even. There's a lot of teams with some young players, and those are the teams in a couple of seasons from now that are going to be dominating the league. And that's what the Blues are going to do. It's smart. Honestly, it's smart. This season, do I go in saying the Blues are going to win the Stanley Cup? Nope. No, I do not. But do I go in saying that they will make it to the playoffs? And the answer is yes. I think here's the thing. Doug Armstrong knows his time will be up in a couple of seasons, and then obviously Alexander Steiner will take over and become the GM. And Steen has done such a good job with his scouting and his presence with the organization that I have all the faith that he's going to execute this out perfectly. Again, fun fact for you, now with the addition of Broberg and Holloway, you have 12 players on the St. Louis Blues, 25 years or younger, that were first-round draft picks, which is absolutely insane. You have the possibility of DeBoer Dvorsky making the team this season. You have other draft picks. You have Snuggie. You even have my boy, Adam Juracek. You have so many guys that are going to be big pieces to this team, this organization as a whole, that the Blues are actually going to be probably dominating the NHL sooner than we think. And you're going to look back and say, oh, well, that 2023, 2024 season kind of sucked. But again, yes, it did suck, but the winning is going to be so sweet. And plus, this offseason, Doug cooked. Let's say it for how it is. So I like Doug's plan a lot. I think it was a very smart plan, a strategic plan, and a plan that only a good GM can do. Even though I called him a world-class GM in my last episode, and I'm like, I know I'm going to get hate in the comments. I did, but I was just really happy that we got both of the players with the offer sheets. Okay. Anyways, let's talk about FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Well, we've have a little something different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. For us, that's every game because we don't have a football team. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just join FanDuel.com to download. /locked on to download America's #1 sportsbook. Sorry, I threw myself off after the comment, but FanDuel's awesome, so make sure to download it. I literally threw myself off with that comment, by the way. It's not funny, but it's true. Like, we had a football team, at least an NFL team, okay? Yeah. Yay, football. Okay, anyways, back to hockey. Expecting the concerns. I've heard your concerns. I read the comments, I've seen the tweets. I know exactly what you're feeling. And the concerns really go around a couple players. Well, it's a scenario and a couple players. Broberg, Holloway. And then how will this impact some of the younger players on the St. Louis Blues? And will this prevent them from having opportunities? I'm a part of a Blues fan club Facebook page. Yeah, like, I know, total nerd. It is what it is. And I posted something on there about the offer sheets and how excited I was that we have some more young players that are really talented, blah, blah, blah. And some of the comments were like, yeah, like, this is probably not a good thing, though, for some of our other guys, trying to make the team, like our other young prospects. And what I have to say to that is this: the time will come. But don't forget, the Blues do have, a handful of players that are a bit older that probably won't be around much longer that eventually will need to be replaced. Not every prospect is going to work out. Let me say that again. Not every prospect is going to work out. It is so unfortunate. It really is. I do this thing a lot where I forget which Twitter page posted it, but they basically post the first round selections from like draft classes from random years, right? And you'll see big names and you're like, oh, that's awesome. That guy's like a superstar. And then you read who got selected like number 2 overall and you're like, are they still in the NHL? And they're not. And it's like, oh, okay, bust. But no, it's true. Not every single prospect will work out. And that's the gamble that you take. Player development is something that I feel like the Blues actually exceed very well in, and not a lot of teams, develop their players the way that the Blues do. And I think that is something that makes us stand out as an organization. But on the other hand, I think that adding in Broberg and Holloway isn't a negative. I understand, oh, the money's high. I get that, but that's only for 2 years, okay? And I know the whole thing, oh, they're going to want more money when their contracts are up, blah, blah, blah. We will cross that bridge when we get there, okay? Maybe they play exceptional for us here in St. Louis and we end up giving them an extension because they deserve that. What if they don't play well? Okay? What about that? Then we let them go away. What I'm trying to say is that you can only handle what you've been given. What we've been given is 2 players that did all of their developing with the Edmonton Oilers, who are a very good team. And now we have them to utilize in our lineup. It's unfortunate, right, that we've had some players, not play as well. Injury, very unfortunate. But on the other hand, I think that the Blues have made the best out of the situation. And I think adding those two guys is only a positive. I would not look at this as a negative. I know 9 million. I know. 4 million. I know. But please understand me when I'm saying this to you. The Blues did not give up a lot to get them. And we still have our first round pick for next year's draft, which is huge. And we have two players, as I mentioned, that were literally developed by the Edmonton Oilers. Let yourself process that for a second. And then tell me, how was this negative? I think it's only negative if you're going with the mentality of, oh my God, what is that, extension going to look like? Again, we literally just signed them. It just happened a week ago, not even a week ago. So there's still a lot of time between now and then. I don't think this is going to impact any of our younger players. I think that at the end of the day, if they weren't able to make the team with them, were they really going to make the team without them? And how much would they benefit the team if they did make the team? Think about it like that. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise. The way I see it, more competition, the better. And even Doug Armstrong likes that. So this, to me, overall is positive. You thought a negative episode today was coming, but I ended up being a little bit more positive than even I thought. Like always, leave your comments down below. I already told you to leave me a player that you think is going to struggle during camp. But where would you put them if you could create your own little mock lineup? Let me know. All right, I will talk to you tomorrow. And like always, let's go Blues.